This isn't a real one, the waitress whispered in perfect Italian. She saved a billionaire from a scam. What if saying one quiet sentence in another language could save someone's whole fortune and change 2 lives forever? In the busy center of Chicago's Little Italy, where the smell of garlic and basil floats through small streets, 67-year-old Vincent Castellano sat by himself at a corner table. His old wrinkled hands shook as he looked at the papers in front of him. The man who had built a shipping company from nothing was about to lose everything to people he had trusted completely. His gray eyes, which used to be sharp as steel, were now filled with confusion and desperate hope as he reached for his phone to make the call that would give away his life's work to strangers. But just as his finger was about to touch the screen, a soft voice with the lightest Italian accent whispered near his ear, "This isn't real." The young woman who brought him his coffee every Tuesday had just said words that would uncover the smartest trick he had ever seen. "Where are you watching from tonight?" Vincent had found Nona's cafe 3 months earlier. He liked its real Italian feel that reminded him of his grandmother's kitchen in Brooklyn. The place felt like going back in time with checkered tablecloths, old photographs of Sicily, and the gentle talking of older customers sharing stories over espresso. It was here he first noticed Lucia Moretti, a 34-year-old waitress whose real smile could brighten the gloomiest Chicago morning. She came from Naples just 2 years ago, working very hard to help her elderly mother back home while studying for her nursing degree at night. What Vincent didn't know was that Lucia had been watching him with growing worry these past weeks. She had noticed how his usual confident manner had changed to worry lines and sleepless nights. The man who once ran boardrooms now sat bent over papers, making quiet phone calls about wire transfers and investment opportunities that sounded too good to be true. Her broken English stopped her from saying her worries, but her gut feeling screamed that something was terribly wrong. The big scam had started 6 months earlier, when Vincent got a call from someone saying they worked for a European shipping group. They had done their homework perfectly, knowing details about his business, his late wife Maria's charity work, even his grandchildren's names. The scammers painted a picture of a once-in-a-lifetime chance to grow his legacy while helping refugee families find new homes. Through shipping partnerships, it was exactly the kind of helping people angle that would appeal to a man who had never forgotten his own immigrant roots. They had slowly built his trust through months of professional meetings, fake documents, and emotional stories. The fake investors even set up video calls with actors, pretending to be grateful families who would supposedly benefit from his investment. Vincent's loneliness after Maria's death had made him easy to trick with their carefully made friendship and promises of meaningful purpose in his golden years. Now sitting in the cafe with transfer papers for $12 million, Vincent felt both excited and scared. His financial advisor had said he was worried, but the scammers had convinced him that traditional advisors couldn't understand such new charitable investments. As he got ready to make the call that would empty his main accounts, destiny was about to step in the form of a waitress who saw danger when she heard it. Lucia had been refilling Vincent's coffee when she heard him practicing his phone conversation in broken Italian, trying to impress his supposed European partners. Her blood ran cold as she recognized the phrases he was practicing. Growing up in Naples, she had watched her own uncle fall victim to a similar scam that had cost their family their small restaurant. The tricks were identical. The promise of helping refugees, the humanitarian angle, the pressure to act quickly before the opportunity disappeared. Her heart pounded as she watched Vincent dial the number. She knew she had to act, but her limited English made her panic. How could she explain such a complicated situation to a man she barely knew? Taking a deep breath, she walked up to his table with a fresh pot of coffee. Her hands shook slightly as she leaned in close enough to whisper without others hearing. "Signor," she said softly in Italian, then switched to her best English. "This not real. Very bad people." Vincent looked up, startled by her serious tone and the unexpected interruption. His finger still hovered over the call button as confusion washed over his face. "I'm sorry, miss, but you must be mistaken," Vincent replied politely, though something in her serious brown eyes made him stop. "These are real business people helping refugee families." Lucia's eyes filled with tears as she tried to find the English words. "My uncle in Napoli. Same story, same words. They take everything." She pointed to his papers with a shaking finger. "These papers I see before in Italy. Police. They show us after Uncle Lou's restaurant." Vincent felt his world tilting as he looked at the documents with fresh eyes. The young woman's obvious worry and specific knowledge began breaking through his carefully built certainty. "But they knew so much about my business, my family. Bad people. They study you. They know everything before they call." Lucia pulled out her phone, quickly searching for an Italian news article about international scam rings. Though Vincent couldn't read Italian, the photos of official-looking documents that looked eerily similar to his own made his stomach drop. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. Vincent's entire body went stiff as the terrible possibility crashed over him like a cold wave. Everything he had believed, every conversation, every promise suddenly felt hollow and evil. But was it too late? The transfer deadline was in 3 hours, and these people expected his call within minutes. His phone buzzed with an incoming text. "Vincent, are you ready to change lives today?" Vincent's hands shook as he read the text message. The friendly tone now felt manipulative and mean. The weight of his possible loss hit him like a physical blow. $12 million was not just his savings, but his grandchildren's college funds, his late wife's medical charity, and the security he had promised his family. The thought of facing his son David and daughter-in-law Catherine with news that he had lost everything to con artists felt unbearable. "I feel so foolish," Vincent whispered, his voice cracking with shame. "Maria always said I was too trusting. How could I be so blind?" The proud man who had built an empire was now hunched over his coffee cup like a broken bird, the weight of his mistake threatening to crush him. Lucia immediately sat down beside him, her shift forgotten as she saw this good man's pain. No, senor. You're not foolish. You have good heart. They are devils who use good hearts." Her broken English somehow made her words more powerful, more real. She told him about her uncle Giuseppe, how the scammers had used his desire to help fellow immigrants against him, how they had studied his routines and relationships for months before striking. Vincent's phone rang. The caller ID showed Alessandro Romano, his main contact with the supposed group. Lucia grabbed his wrist gently but firmly. "No answer. We think first." Her courage in protecting a near stranger touched something deep in Vincent's heart, reminding him of Maria's fierce protectiveness. As they sat there, Lucia called her friend Isabella, who worked at the Italian consulate, explaining the situation in rapid Italian. Within minutes, Isabella confirmed what they feared. No such shipping group existed in Europe, and Vincent's documents matched templates used by known international scammers. The devastating truth became completely clear. Vincent had been living in a big fantasy for 6 months, his grief and loneliness expertly manipulated by professional criminals. The investors he had grown to trust didn't exist. The refugee families were actors. Even the office address in Rome was fake. But as Vincent processed his narrow escape, he felt something unexpected alongside his shock. Deep gratitude for this young woman who had risked her job to save him. "Why did you help me?" he asked Lucia. "You barely know me." Her answer was simple and beautiful. "Because someone helped my family once when we had nothing. Good people, they help. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments." Vincent realized that while he had almost lost his fortune, he had gained something equally valuable: faith that real kindness still existed in a world full of lies. Vincent's phone continued ringing over and over as the scammers grew desperate to complete their long-planned robbery. Alessandro Romano called 6 more times, followed by more and more urgent text messages saying the investment window was closing and other families would lose their opportunity if Vincent delayed. The manipulation was so obvious now that Vincent felt sick thinking about how completely he had been fooled. But instead of answering, Vincent made a different call to his son David, a criminal attorney in Boston, who had been doubtful of the investment from the beginning. "Dad, thank God you called," David said when Vincent explained everything. "I've been researching those names you mentioned. Every single one is connected to an international fraud ring the FBI has been tracking." While Vincent spoke with his son, Lucia quietly worked with her friend Isabella at the consulate, who connected them directly with Agent Patricia Williams from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Agent Williams had been investigating this particular group for 8 months, trying to identify their next target. Vincent's cooperation could help them save other victims and finally arrest the criminals. The next hour became a whirlwind of activity that changed Vincent from victim to hero. Agent Williams explained that they had been unable to get inside the scam ring because the criminals were incredibly careful about choosing their targets. But Vincent's inside access could help them gather the evidence needed for arrests. Working with federal agents, Vincent agreed to participate in a controlled operation to expose the entire network. That afternoon, with FBI surveillance in place, Vincent called Alessandro back and set up a final meeting at a downtown hotel. The scammers, confident in their success, brought their entire Chicago operation team to witness what they believed would be their biggest score. When Vincent arrived wearing a wire and accompanied by federal agents, the big con finally fell apart. The arrests were swift and decisive. 7 people were taken into custody, including the woman who had been pretending to be a grateful refugee mother and the man who had pretended to be Alessandro Romano. Seized evidence showed a sophisticated operation that had stolen over $40 million from elderly Americans across 12 states. If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. As Vincent watched the handcuffs being placed on the criminals who had nearly destroyed his life, he felt an overwhelming mix of relief, vindication, and gratitude. But the day's surprises weren't over yet. Agent Williams had one more revelation that would add an unexpected twist to this already remarkable story. About the power of human kindness and intuition. Agent Williams smiled as she walked up to Vincent and Lucia in the hotel lobby after the arrests. "Mr. Castellano, there's something else you should know," she said warmly. Miss Moretti's tip wasn't just lucky timing. She actually called our fraud hotline 3 weeks ago because she was concerned about an elderly customer she had heard talking about suspicious wire transfers. "We've been trying to identify you and warn you, but she only knew your first name and that you came to Nona's cafe." Vincent turned to Lucia with amazement and deep gratitude. This remarkable young woman hadn't just saved him in a moment of crisis. She had been actively trying to protect him for weeks. Despite her limited English and fear of getting involved, her compassion had driven her to contact federal authorities on behalf of a customer she barely knew. The financial recovery was swift and complete. Because the FBI had caught the criminals before any money changed hands, Vincent's accounts stayed untouched. But more importantly, the investigation showed that the scam ring had been planning to target 12 other elderly Americans, including Vincent's neighbor, Harold Goldstein. Lucia's intervention had saved millions of dollars and countless heartbreaks. 3 months later, Vincent did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He hired Lucia as his personal assistant, helping her quit the restaurant job and providing full support for her nursing school tuition. "I spent months looking for the right way to honor Maria's memory through charitable work," Vincent told his family. "I never imagined it would mean helping someone who had already saved me." Lucia's mother, Elena, was able to visit from Naples for the first time since her daughter's immigration, thanks to Vincent's sponsorship. Watching Elena's tears of joy as she hugged her daughter in Chicago's airport, Vincent felt Maria's presence strongly, knowing his late wife would have approved completely of this unexpected friendship. The story came full circle 6 months later at Lucia's nursing school graduation. Vincent sat in the front row beaming with pride as she received her degree magna cum laude. In her valedictorian speech, Lucia spoke about the importance of trusting one's instincts and the responsibility to protect vulnerable people, lessons that now guided her chosen profession. Vincent created the Maria Castellano Foundation for Elder Protection, with Lucia serving as its program director after graduation. Together, they created educational workshops about financial scams, specifically targeting immigrant communities who often feel too scared to report suspicious activity. Their work has since prevented an estimated $18 million in fraud losses across the Midwest. Today, Vincent and Lucia remain close friends, bound by a moment when courage and kindness came together to prevent disaster. Their story proves that sometimes the most powerful acts of heroism come not from strangers, but from people who simply care enough to speak up when something feels wrong. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales of human connection and courage. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey of trust, intuition, and the beautiful ways that strangers can become family when we're brave enough to help one another.